I think I just recorded one of the funnest podcasts I ever done. I sat down with Ezy Finkel, who's a good friend and a colleague, and probably one of the people who is responsible for the most amount of people getting help and going to treatment and getting better in recovery. We sat down, we talked about, oh my gosh, so many topics and so much of, like the things we have in common. And it's just, it was absolutely a stunning conversation, and it was really fun. I would watch all the way to the end. Remember, like, follow, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and hope you have a great day.
Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
We're live.
And alive.
And alive. Okay. As a wise woman has once told me, the man, the myth, the legend is here.
Wow.
I told you, you gave me the idea. So, Ezie.
Sonny.
I'm very, very happy to have you. I'm also happy you wore a white shirt. You look very sheepish.
Of course.
Okay. So, I've been trying to get you on for 2 years. Something like that. Is that right? Since the beginning, I think.
Since the beginning.
And finally, your wife put some seichel in your head and said, go out there, say some things the world needs to know. But okay, what the world doesn't know, and I'll put it in the bio or whatever, but the world doesn't know is you probably sent more people to treatment and help than almost anybody I know. So I'm just putting that out there. And just because you don't have a web presence that people can look up. So I'm just giving you the intro is later, but I put the intro in after. Anyway, how do you feel about being on the podcast today?
I feel interesting. It's I haven't really done this, but you're an old friend, and I'm excited to be here and schmooze with you.
Okay. So
about what you have in mind.
Okay, so we're going to go right in.
Let's go right in.
All right, what really pisses you off about rehabs? I think one of the things is that you have a real inside view of the industry, right?
Okay.
So my frustration that I've had is that I believe that rehabs and treatment programs are doing amazing, amazing work. And I shouldn't say but, right? And there's a lot of holes in the system that are like dropping people out of the system. So when a regular person shows up and has a kid who's struggling or an adult family member that's struggling, their idea of it is, my kid's got cancer, I'm going to send them to this treatment program, they're going to come out without cancer. That's the plan. And they don't know that there's all different types of places, and some of them are shady and some of them are good, and some, they don't know any of that stuff. And they also don't know that this is not a disease that gets fixed in 1 second, or even a month or 2 months. It's a lifelong struggle to be better. But I will say that what people think is we're going straight to rehab and then it's going to be better. And you've been sending a lot of people to rehab. So first of all, are you seeing what I'm seeing, that people are like, hey, cure my kid, bring him to rehab, they're better, now what? That's the first thing I'm asking you. Are you seeing that with people?
I'll tell you what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Two things in that regard. And one of them is, I see a lot of times that a kid, a spouse, a person goes to treatment, and they do very well in treatment. And the family is gung-ho about this treatment center because they helped their loved one. So they are recommending that treatment center to everybody they know.
Right.
I always say that every treatment center is the best treatment center and the worst treatment center. Because a lot of looking for the right treatment, besides for, a program could have the best clinical program, but it's not the right program for this person, right? Because a lot of personality goes into, the person's personality has to fit with the treatment program and modalities and staff and just environment, right?
Right.
But I guess two things that you asked me what pisses me off.
Yeah, we can go back to that.
Two things. I don't know if it pisses me off, but I find a lack of it overall, mostly, not always, is two things. Number one is communication.
Explain that.
Communication, the treatment center communicating and involving, whether it's reference or family.
Okay.
And number two is, you mentioned somebody's sick and they want to send them to treatment, come back better. Is family program, family involvement, right? I'm not going to say that a person is struggling because of their family, but when somebody's struggling with mental health or addiction, it takes over the whole family in a way, right? And everybody suffers, and nobody's perfect. So either the family needs their own help as well, or the family needs to learn how to... I see so many times people going to treatment and they do so well in treatment, and then they come home and it's a disaster because they're going back into the same exact environment, right? Nobody at home changed. Nobody at home learned boundaries, healthy boundaries, or, boundaries for the person. So they're going from the safe bubble where they're doing amazing and they're put right back into the world. Yeah, even if they're going to sober living afterwards and they do amazing in sober living, they could be in treatment for 3 years, right? Between all the different levels of care. But then they're going home, and if the home didn't change at all, then it's a matter of time.
Right. Well, how do you get the home to change? Like what I have found, let's put that a different way. What I have found, I'm not saying it's 100%, but I've found this a lot, is that when there's addiction in the family, then that becomes the identified patient. That's the person who's the problem, right? And the whole family is running around trying to figure out how to fix that problem. And it gives everybody the excuse to just ignore the fact that everybody's a problem. Like everybody in the family is, now this person expressed it with addiction. The other people are not. Now, actually, this is interesting, and see if this is the systems model, is that very often the addict will be doing it to keep the family together. According to systems, like I'll be sick so my parents don't get divorced.
Correct. And you see that sometimes where when the kid gets better, the parents all of a sudden have to deal with each other, and they might get divorced, or they
have to deal with it. Right.
Correct.
So it's like the system is trying to keep itself together. So there's always something going on at home. But I think one of the things that always, when someone calls me, most of the time the answer, and I don't know how to get to it always, but the answer is go get some help yourself. Like the parents, like go get some help. Like I have this thing I say to parents, it's like they're very into Judaism and religion, and they're like, how come my kid is not? And I said, why do you think God gave you a kid that's struggling? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you think God didn't know that you'd have a kid that's struggling and this is just accidental, but your kid's supposed to know that it's Ashkaka and Hashem and all that stuff. This is your challenge. Why is God giving this to you? Like, how are you going to rise to this challenge? Parents are like very like thrown off by this because what do you mean? This is my problem? I got to deal with this? I'm like, why is the same God you're trying to push onto your kid? He's the same God who gave you this kid and made you have this difficult situation. So how are you going to deal with that? So I very often have a really hard time like getting people to realize that they have their own work to do. And every conversation is about, okay, how do I deal with the addict? And how do I, especially with wives, how do I deal with my husband? He's got this addiction and I don't know how do you deal with you? It's never, even if you send it to therapy, the whole therapy is about the person. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but generally, and tell me if you find this, I find that within a few minutes of talking to somebody, I'll know how I can help them. Whether it's just giving them somebody else's number or a couple of options of treatment, or really telling them, I'm not helping your loved one however I can unless you're doing X, Y, and Z. And they have people, meaning if I'm going to start telling every family that calls me, I'm not helping you unless you're going for your own help, the conversation is over, which is fine. But certain people are just they're not going to let go. They're not going to let go and see where they can get help or need help. And certain people are so immersed and ready and willing. And those are the families that you could really work with, and you see the whole family change and blossom. It's incredible.
Oh, you're saying, but would you say most of the time it's like you guys gotta get help also while you're doing it, or you have times?
I always say it.
You always say it. Okay.
But sometimes I'll say it in a way where I think it's important for you to get help. Not that you necessarily need your own help, but help to learn how to deal with this challenge that your child is going through, because it affects everybody.
Right. I also find, okay, let's say now you got them help, right? So now then I have the next level. I'm trying not to be negative, but I realize a lot of negative thoughts are coming. Well, I'm going to tell you my negative thoughts. We'll be positive also. But what I find is you get them help, and then they go to a therapist, and then the therapist makes it all about, the addict, how to deal with the addict, how to put up boundaries, how to do this, and it's not about realizing that they got to get better also. Meaning, again, they feed into this idea of like how to fix another person, which is essentially impossible to fix someone else. You could only fix yourself. Isn't that true?
Say this again. Are you saying that the therapist is trying to fix?
Yeah. So when someone comes into therapy and you don't have the right training for addiction and stuff like that, even if you do have the right training, even if you have training for addiction, but you have kind of like an old school model of training. And then we could talk about old school and new school and that for stuff. But the old school model is you kind of beat someone into like fixing themselves, like
right?
Raise the bottom and we like make it really. So you go to a therapist and you say, Ezy said, I got to come to therapy because I want my kid to go to rehab, whatever. Okay. And this is what I'm doing. I show up. And then my problem is my kid did drugs, and he at 6 years old. At 6 years old, he was molested, and then this happened, and they just talking about the kid. And I don't know what to do, and I don't trust him, and he's stealing all my stuff, and he's doing this. What do I do? And then the therapist is like, okay, well, first thing you got to do is put up boundaries, and you got to make sure that you lock up your goods, and then you tell him if he's not back by 11 o'clock. Meanwhile, what I'm trying to say, the example is that all the therapy sessions end up being about talking about how to deal with that kid. Now, I'm not saying that's nothing in the therapy, but it doesn't mean they're developing themselves.
Correct. And what you said was, Ezy said I should call you. So if it's Ezy saying, and I'm not perfect and I don't know everything or close to everything, but if it's a therapist that I'm referring someone to, then it's a therapist that I believe in that can help this family.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fully. Now, are there 10,000 other therapists that will try to help this family that I don't think could? Yes.
Right.
But it has to be the right shidduch as well. And it has to be the right therapist.
I will say, and this is to me like a message to therapists, like in general, you need to work with the person in front of you. Like, if you try to work with someone who's not there, it's not going to work out.
Is that the only message you have to therapists?
So far, for right this minute. Okay. I have several other messages. I have lots of messages. But I love it, like in any quality working on yourself type of program, the message is always, you could only fix yourself. You cannot fix another person. You can't change another person. You cannot do it. You could change yourself. And then that person may change or not change, but you cannot change another person. I feel like they're doing this a lot. Well,
so generally when somebody reaches out to me for help, if it's not the person themselves, I'll want to speak to the person.
Right.
because, people see things completely different. And a parent could call me about that child and tell me about that child the way they see things. And then I could speak to the child, or a child doesn't mean an adolescent. It could be an adult also, and it's a completely different situation, right?
Right.
So exactly like you're saying, if you're treating someone who's not in front of you, now there's basic standards or basic ideas of how to help a family with someone struggling with addiction without seeing the addict. But to fully really work with them, you need a team of people.
Right.
Right? The kid, the parents' therapist, let's say, or whoever's helping them, that needs to be in touch with the kid's therapist. There's always he said, she said,
This
so
goes
many
back to
different
the
things.
communication stuff.
Communication.
They need more.
So that's why a lot of times I'll say you need his, hers, and ours. You'll need, if it's a spouse, the husband needs a therapist, the wife needs a therapist, and then a couples therapist, and they all need releases.
Right.
And if there's anyone that's helping along with them, right? There's so many times where I'm on a conference call with 5 or 6 or 7 people. Because how do you, a team, when a person has a team, that's what I found also. The people that really change are the ones that are open, willing, and that they're okay with that. I want that team to be in touch and to talk things over. Because if not, it's my therapist said this. I find a lot of times therapists are giving advice to a spouse based off of what the spouse is saying without knowing anything about the person struggling.
Right.
Except what that wife or husband told them.
Right. I think a lot of this, and to be fair to some therapists, when I was doing private practice, there wasn't a lot of time to get. I mean, each client you're seeing, you need to be in touch with each part. So I will say that I know that if a therapist has 35 clients, he's got to work like 90 hours a week to do all that work, which people.
But there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to.
There is a way, because we've seen people that could do it. I will say one of the reasons I got into the sober living thing is because that I knew it was about the team. Like you needed a village and an army to be like behind each one person who's trying to get better. And that includes the parents and includes everything. Like eventually I want to have like retreats for the parents and stuff like that. Like eventually we'll have all that. But okay, let me ask you a question. This is the statistics are that people go to rehab. You're talking about 20% long-term success rate.
You believe in statistics?
Fairly statistics. I believe in statistics, yes. Okay. But the question is actually in your experience. So like in my experience, I don't have those numbers. I have better numbers. I do believe it's affected by the fact that we are a very tight community and people do come out and there's a lot of good stuff going on in the community. Even if you don't change anything, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Parents love their kids. We'll get into that in a second. But the numbers in the world are very low. And that's for good treatment centers, long-term treatment centers. That's what you're getting, those numbers. In your experience, like when you're thinking about the people you worked with and you have your own data set and all the people you know, where would you say the actual statistics are in terms of long-term success? And I guess I should define that as not only being sober, but like maybe sober is a very big part of it, but talking about having successful lives and reintegrating into the community. Maybe I'm adding too many factors, but that's kind of how I view success, like that you're actually able to have a life.
I definitely don't have statistics, and I don't have a website. You think I keep statistics?
In your brain, bro.
In my brain.
In your brain.
This is what I always say. A lot, when people reach out to me, what's the success rate?
Right.
That's a big question. I have one answer, and this is just me. Who am I? Right? But I say it's 100% success rate and 0% success rate. Okay. That's what it is. It's really what I look at each person as a person and what they could accomplish. And yes, there's people that unfortunately pass away, and there's people that struggle for a long time. But there's people that really change their life and have beautiful lives. Beautiful lives.
Well, I know that.
So-
Are you gonna skip the whole question?
So I don't know how to answer it. I don't know how to
Gotcha.
answer it.
No, but you gotta have some idea. Like I've said I would say that my experience, if I would go back all the years for me, and it's a lot of years,
Right.
I realized that I name drop in a different way than other people. You know, people name drop like I know this guy, I know this guy. I realized the amount of times I say how many years I've been in the field is a form of like name dropping.
Longer than me.
26 years. I think it's a little longer than you, but it's a long time.
I was still getting high though.
What?
I was still getting high.
That's true. It's since 99. Yeah, I think we're around 20. Yeah. But meanwhile, that's my name drop, which is
First of all, what year were you in the Chaim Schwartz program?
Jeez.
Do you know I was in Chaim Schwartz?
After me. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. After you.
Oh my gosh. Chaim Schwartz program. I want to say 94.
Really?
Is that wild?
That's wild.
Maybe 95. Maybe either 94 or 95.
Okay.
Those years are a little blurry.
Really? Why?
No. Listen, if you remember the Chaim Schwartz
I was
program,
in Chaim
you were
Schwartz.
not in the Chaim Schwartz program.
Exactly.
That's the... You were
I was
when?
I was in Chaim Schwartz program in 1998. I was in Neve.
Oh, so that's not that much after me. I think we overlapped in Neve for a minute.
Possibly. 97, 98.
Yeah, because I was like Shana Gimel, Shana Daled, something like that. I came in 94, 95, and then I left 98. Or maybe I don't know. All right.
So they had asked me to leave.
Neve.
Yes. And they said that if I go to Chaim Schwartz program,
They sent you to
they
Chaim
sent me
Schwartz?
to Chaim Schwartz program. They said if you go there for 2 months, and I was seeing Yona Pollock,
Nice.
OG.
That's an OG.
That's an OG.
Yeah.
Yona Pollock.
I got to get Yona on the pod, right? He's in
Totally.
Israel.
So what?
I'm not doing long distance pods. I have to
Go to Israel.
I know. Okay, I'll do it.
Do a Zoom.
No Zoom.
That would be a crazy podcast
I
with
know.
Yona.
It's
Was
true.
he a therapist?
No.
I was one of his first clients.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was coming. Yeah. Truth is, that was in private practice. He did some more
Private
before
practice. Right. And he was in Fish?
That. I don't know. Yeah. We used to call it
Rehab?
the fish tank.
The fish tank.
You went to that?
I was not really.
Oh,
No.
okay. Not
Almost.
almost.
Went, left.
Right. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So there was a rehab for everybody else. There's a rehab. I don't know what the name of it was, but it was run by a guy named Fish. We used to call it the fish
Right.
tank. And Yona
So
was there.
Yona, so I went to Chaim Schwartz program for 2 months, which is a whole separate podcast.
Right.
And I came back, then they let me back into Neve. And my roommate at the time was so excited that I was back. He's like, we got a trip, man. You just came back.
We got to celebrate.
We got to celebrate. And we celebrated.
And celebrate.
And celebrated. And in the morning, the mosh would come in to wake everybody up. So I was tripping
Hey,
so
can you do
hard.
imitation of the mosh waking up? Because
Stay off, lavoida, saboide.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's never come out.
Never.
Every morning.
Every morning. Sisu v'simchu.
Wow. That's bringing me back. Okay.
Anyways, I was fully dressed, tripping so hard, and it's my first morning back. I came back in the evening, and it's the first morning. I got to behave myself, right? They didn't ask me to leave because I was behaving myself.
Right.
I started bugging. So my roommate told me, he said, just go under your blanket and make like you're sleeping. I said, that's genius. So I go all the way. I put the blanket over my head. I'm laying in my bed. I'm fully clothed. And the mosh comes in the room and he tasks me. And he's like, Ezie, wake up. It's your first morning back. And I jumped up. I'm like, I'm up.
Yeah.
I was so scared. And he's like, what's going on here? So that morning I was asked to leave again.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And you were back for one day?
I was back for one night.
Oh.
And I had to, at that point, move. And they said they ended up letting me stay, but I had to move into Rabbi Falk's basement.
No way.
Yes.
Can I tell you, Rabbi Falk had a trick when he made his speeches.
Okay.
This is kind of totally different. And in the beginning, it was like annoying to me. And then I spent a lot of time when I was there, like just observing everybody. I had like all these weird observationals. Like I was a weird kid, I think.
Okay.
I went from a weird kid to a weird adult. So that's what happened. So nothing changed. But I used to watch Rabbi Falk, and he had this speech idea, and he would start very quiet. And I'm like, no one could hear you. But eventually, everybody got real quiet because you couldn't hear him.
Wow.
And I've never mastered it, but I've definitely over the years tried real hard to
I've never noticed that.
He would start really quiet, and his speeches were phenomenal.
I'm not sure if I've ever been to one.
No,
Maybe. You know,
I don't remember the thing he said. I just remember that.
You know who till today had an effect on my life from me being in the Neve? I loved all the Rabbi.
Yeah.
They were all amazing. So this is not a shout out because they were all incredible, but
he's better. I'm just kidding.
Rabbi Price changed my life without knowing. Just watching him.
Oh my God.
Watching
that
that
I've
man.
said exactly
I'm
this.
getting so emotional now because even as a kid in Neve, who all I wanted and knew to do was whatever I wanted, I would sit and I would watch that man, and I would go to his classes, only his, because he had a lot going on. He wasn't a well man. He couldn't walk.
Always had something going on.
He always had an illness, and he was the happiest, nicest, funnest, just sat down, joked with us, told us the most incredible stories. And he totally changed my life. He totally, I should say, shaped a part of my life without ever knowing it.
You don't know what you're doing to me, because I've even shared on the podcast almost identical. I used to say that I got very, very close with him. Like I really got close with him. He was like my Rabbi. And
Mine too.
Right. And I'd drive him around when he got to America. And I went to Cleveland when he got like his operation. And I really got very close with him. It was very sweet because he also would have pictures of me and like hang them up. All his kids knew all my kids' names. Wow. It was like the most delicious thing in the world. But I always used to say, similar to what you're saying, is like when I was in a real crap mood, like real bad, I would just walk into the basement. And you remember he was in the front left. You remember where he was? Like the front left. And I would just sit down or stand there and just look at him for like 2-3 minutes. And then I'd be like, okay.
And he would be so happy to see you.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Right.
Did you hear I have one great Ray Price story. I shared it, but no one could get it unless they know Ray Price. Because I said to him, I was bugging out. I was in Rabbi Klugman's share, and I was learning like all day and all. I was just learning 12, 14 hours, and I completely burnt out. Like I didn't flip out in terms of like dress or anything. I was still like had my long hair and my jeans and t-shirt, but I was just I was really trying to dig deep into like learning. So I burnt out. I went to Rabbi Price and I said, listen, I'm leaving. I'm going on a trip somewhere 2-3 weeks. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm really worried I'm gonna like mess up pretty bad. So you tell me where to go, and I'll just go there. It's like, just tell me where. And he said, go to hell. You're going there anyways.
So good.
When I tell people that story, they're like, they don't
so
get it.
Good. It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Anyway.
Know what he used to call me? I still don't remember why. He used to call me Ezy Gump, like Forrest Gump.
Really?
That was his name for me. I have his Sefer, his book, and he like wrote me a letter in it, and it was sentences with Gump. Like
No
he called
way.
me Ezy Gump.
You don't know the origin of that?
I don't remember the origin.
But listen, when I think about Rabbi Price, I think it wasn't just Rabbi Price, but I think it pretty much was close to. It has informed how I work with people from then. Like if there's anybody, like I've gone to all the school, got all the degrees, and I've learned a lot along the way. And if I had to point one person who taught me how to be what I am, it's Rabbi Price.
100%.
Is that crazy?
Because he was real.
He was the realest person
He was the
ever.
realest person ever.
Wow. Okay.
The realest
I didn't know
person
that we
ever.
had this.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, he touched so many lives and nobody even. There's a funny story where a couple of his students, he used to tell me his stories. He said a couple of students, they went into this Meir Sharm place selling photos of Rebbes. I don't know if you heard this. So they would sell all these Rebbe photos to people, whatever. So this guy walks in. They like set up like a month sting or something. Basically, they sent one guy in and he said, "Do you have a Rav Price?" And they're like, "No, who's Rav Price?" And then the next guy would come in like a couple days later. "You have Rav Price?" The guy's like, "I don't know." Then like 3 or 4 times later, a guy comes in and he's showing him a bunch of cards. He's like, "And this is Rav Price." There's a picture of Rav Price that he took. And the guy's like, "Yeah, I want Rav Price. I want that." And then the next day, the guys came back and it said in the window, "Chadash, Rav Price," in the window.
That's so good.
Up against the window.
That's so good. He was a Rebbe in Neve when it was in Netanya still, like the first year it opened.
Netanya. Yeah.
He was there from the beginning.
Yeah, he was, I think, like he might have lived in the dorm.
Wow.
Like the
That I didn't
first,
know.
in the beginning. But anyway, I keep in touch with his wife a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. They're really, I actually have a funny story because she called me 2 years ago, something like this. And she called me and she asked, she was raising money for Neve. I don't know, she was just helping out or whatever. And in my head, I was like, I owe these people so much. Whatever number she gives me, she tells me, I'm giving. Whether or not I could afford it or not. And she's like, you should give something for every month. I said, what do you think I should give? And I'm like, whatever she didn't give me a big number. So I got like that. But I'm still giving that amount. Like
Wow.
it's just, because it was her. Like it wasn't just him. And that's what we learned. I learned so much about marriage. Like she was so excited about everything he did.
Yes.
Brought it home. I love that guy. Okay. You should just gush on Rabbi Price. But how much, when you think about the people in the business that are really making a difference, the common denominator is, I don't really talk about it like this, but it's the price factor. I want to call it something. It's like they're genuine people. They're not playing a game. They're not doing a trick. They're like, I like people. I want them to get better. And I'm just here for them. Like those are the people I think that are the greatest, but I don't know.
They're definitely the greatest. The question is, there's so many different levels, right? Like Rabbi Price, he was a Rebbe in the yeshiva without even trying to. There's 2 people right now that didn't know this, that we just started talking about it, that he made such an impact on by not even trying to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
That's like a whole new level. And then you have people that really want to help and really have their heart in the right place, but let's call it level of care is wrong. Do you agree or disagree with that? meaning that get
Well, first of all, I
involved in
disagree. I think
situations
he
that they're not
really-
that they don't really know how to handle. Their heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
They want to help.
Yeah. So, first of all, I think he did try real hard to help. That's the thing, man. Like, he didn't not try. He did try a lot. I mean, he used to tell me like how hard it was to get up the hill, and because it was a trip to get up that hill.
Right.
And like later years, he actually said, like, you never see him complain, but he actually like talked about how hard it was to me. So he did definitely try. I remember he went for a surgery. Sorry, we're back into stories again. 1 second. I'll answer your question. It's like, but he went to surgery. The first thing they said, you got to cut off your beard. He had a beard since he's a kid.
Right. And he had a nice beard.
Nice beard.
Yeah.
I come into the surgery. They shaved off his whole beard.
You're kidding.
His beard completely off. Face completely shaved. I walk in on this. Meaning like a little stubble. And I came to Cleveland because he just got a heart valve replacement or whatever. And I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, how's he react? And he says, don't I look handsome? You like how it looks? It was literally the funniest thing. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? He went through the hardship, but he really, like, his goal was to help the guys. But it was, so I will say that. It wasn't like it was just natural. He naturally was amazing. But
that's what I meant.
He put in a lot of effort. Okay, so that's the first thing. But I will say, yeah, I got once advice from, I had 2 employees. One of them was top quality, knew what they were doing, but the heart was not there. And then another one who really didn't know what they were doing, like was disaster, like hurting people, but their heart was there. So I spoke to my brother-in-law at the time. My sister got divorced, but Paul, and I asked him, in business, if you have 2 people like this, he's a businessman. If you have 2 people like this, what do you do? He says, you can't teach heart. If someone's got the heart in the right place, you could shift anything they're thinking. Because their brain could shift, but their heart is in the right place. I don't care how good they are at it. If their heart isn't there, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. I don't care if it's like you feel like you're going to lose money. At the end of the day, you're going to suffer if you have someone who doesn't have the heart. So I have seen a lot of people with a lot of heart doing the wrong things, but I have a lot more hope for those people. Meaning, like, it's like I know if I sit down and have a conversation with them and talk it over and go somewhere with them, I feel like there's shifting to do. But the people who are like in it, like in their mind, and they're like, I'm being Makara's the Ilum, and I'm gonna fix everybody, but they, like, it's not in their heart. Those are the guys that scare me.
I like what you just said.
Thank you.
I like what you just said. I do.
Yeah.
Because in a way, it's not a fully heart business.
Right.
It's helping people is heart, right? Somebody struggling senses if a person cares or not, right? In order to really help somebody, your heart, like you're saying, has to be in the right place.
Right.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. But I'm saying is, like, you're right. There are people with the heart in the right place that are screwing people up.
But what you said is accurate, right. That could change.
It could change. And I have seen it change. And the funny thing about this industry, if you could call it that, is it kind of weeds out anybody who doesn't have the heart in it. Eventually, I said there's 2 industries. Like, there's the recovery industry, like the industry, which you're saying we're not the industry. There is an industry. I have a lot of money. I put money into nursing homes. I put money into real estate. Oh, I heard rehabs make a lot of money. So they put money into rehabs. And, like, if someone gets better, they're happy. But it's not like, that's not really the goal. It's to fill up those beds and, like, make it happen. And then there's people, what I call my industry, which is the helping industry. And I think there are two different industries. There's the helping industry. Sometimes, if you're lucky, they overlap.
Right.
But very rarely, in my opinion, have I seen it really overlap. What I usually find is like the people in the rehab industry, the people in the rehab that are not making the money are really genuinely wonderful people. So, but it's like almost like despite the rehab. The rehab is...
But the people putting the money in are not the ones trying to help the people.
Right.
And at the end of the day, people, in order to help people, it does have to be a business, correct? You need to make money in order to have a facility continue operating.
Sort of.
What do you mean, sort of?
Well, here's the deal.
If you want to just help people and you say, come in, and you're feeding them and paying for therapists and paying electricity and a mortgage and everything that goes into it, you need to obviously have that. It has to be a back-ended business as well.
Right. So I know that very well because I run this.
Right.
And I'm trying to break even. I'm not trying to make any money. So break even still costs money.
Right.
I will say that I think we could take a lot out and make it enormously cheaper to run. And
Okay.
I think the key, and I think when I think about like the UJA puts in $1 million into like people, you know, helping vegetarians in Uganda, you know, like that. I'm saying the money is there. Like I could run my entire program on an absolute fraction of one of the federation's budgets. Like some of these federation budgets are like $1.2 billion a year they're giving out. So like you're talking about, you know, we could help every Jewish addict. And maybe other communities could do other things, but let's talk Jewish because that's who I work with. For nothing. That's what I believe. Now, yes, it's the community's money. That's true. But I think when you have to make a lot of money, there's a lot of things that go to the wayside. And this is probably one of my biggest issues. Meaning the only real way to make money in the rehab business is to give tons and tons of therapy and all different types of therapies. And even therapies that don't seem to do anything. Just like throw in all the different types of therapies. And meanwhile, anybody who's gone through the 12 steps understands that the hardest stuff is not therapy. The work we have to do is free. You know, like that line, like I went to...
I paid all this money to go to treatment to realize that AA meetings are for free.
What I'm trying to say is that we should learn from that idea. Now, I recognize that programs have to charge, but I think the community could cover it because it's just a fraction of the community that's suffering like this. I mean, like every community has a fraction of the community that is disabled in some way. You know, so we take care of people in wheelchairs. We take care of people who have cancer. We take care of those people. But there's a group that are dysfunctional in the way that they have addiction or severe mental health issues. It wouldn't be that big a deal to make this part of like what we take care of. I'm saying maybe like the reason it turned into an industry is because we could bill insurance, and then we're billing insurance, and now we're breaking even at 12%. And like what, you know, like we fill up a couple of beds and we're breaking even. Now we're making fortunes. There might be people walking away with millions of dollars a year on people suffering from addiction. I don't have a problem with people making money. I do have a little bit of a problem with people making money on the backs of people who are really, really suffering. And I don't think it needs that much to help these people.
I think we finally found something we disagree on.
Good, let's go.
Let's go.
It's funny because I'm actually in the world of charging money.
No, I understand, but you're different, and you're not looking to make. You have to charge money in order to
just survive.
Right.
Although I hope that will end. My goal is to never charge money. I will tell you that.
I bless you. You should get there quickly.
I will get there. I've gotten everything I ever wanted in my life.
It changed so much. You remember when you first opened?
Yeah.
It was like a completely different thing.
Which one? The monk version?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not so different. This was our
No,
goal.
I'm saying it evolved so much.
It blew up. It's amazing what's going on.
Incredible.
It's like an entire community.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good to it, but yeah, you remember we were like a little house. We were trying our best, and
it wasn't such a little house.
I mean, it was a gorgeous house.
Yeah, it was a big house.
But yeah.
Okay, you want to get back to that?
Yeah. What do we
finally
disagree with? Talk to me.
I'm not against people making money.
Me neither.
You said you were.
Again, on the backs of suffering people.
What does that mean?
It means that people are sitting there trying to figure out how to come up with $80,000.
Oh, you're saying
they're sick, and I have a program. Some people need 2 years. I don't want them to need 2 years, but they need it. I'm gonna go charge you. I'm the cheapest program out there, but it's a fortune for a Jewish family.
I have a different belief though. Yeah, I've seen people just yesterday. Somebody called. They need to go to this program. It's $80,000. It's spa, and they have spa treatments and recovery and everything.
Right.
I said if you could wire, but they were coming to ask for money for it.
Right.
My belief is I'm not against those programs, and I'm not saying that they work or they don't work. That's a whole separate conversation. But if you don't have $80,000 that you can wire that day and step in, then you should not be going there. Because people in their brain think that they're a certain type of person, and they think they know what they need.
Yeah.
And generally, they might not know. So if I can't afford to go to, there's all types of programs out there.
Yeah.
Right? There's all types. And I could get sober or get my mental health in order, which is a little different, I believe, than addiction, the treatment, what they might need. But get sober on a bunk bed.
That's true.
Stay there for 2 years. Go. There's a program for everyone. So why are people, I believe that the people that are making money on $80,000 a month, or charging, they're not making, they're charging $80,000 a month, should be a program for people that could pay $80,000 a month. And there are those people out there. But it's not somebody who doesn't have any money.
But here's the problem.
I disagree with that.
Okay, but here's the problem. Okay.
So if now you're choosing to come to my program.
No. But okay, so here we go. We got
programs. I need my own room. It has to be on the beach. I need to get a massage twice a week. That's not recovery. And if that's what you need, you should be able to pay for it. That's what I believe.
I got you. But I will tell you. So let's take out the extra luxuries. And okay, I get that. There are always going to be the extra luxuries. But if I have lung cancer, right?
Yeah.
And I hear that there's a doctor out there that cost me $100,000 extra than the other one in order to get the best doctor in town. I'm going to scrounge around and figure out how to get that. When you say, okay, I have Medicaid. I have New York Medicaid. Where am I going? Where am I going to rehab? Right? So they say, okay, well, you could go to this place. This is where the federal penitentiary lets all their people out. Nobody wants to get better. The place is trash, whatever. But that's what you could afford, so go there. Or go on a collecting fee, a spree to...
But there's a difference between collecting $20,000 and $80,000.
Okay, so I agree with you on that. But I will say that most of these, I think that we should figure out as a community, because we're all trained to think that medical care should cost money. And this is... You're gonna get my socialist out here. This is not good. I never talk politically, but I'm a little bit of a socialist. I think all medicals should be free in America. So that's what people get real upset at me. But I think it all should be free. We're so trained to think that any type of medical care costs money. But the fact is, we're Jews. We know that the first thing you do is Gemilas Chasadim. That's what we do. We do it better than everybody, hands down. The world is completely jealous of that. They judge us even more because they know we are the biggest Gemilas Chasadim in the world. You have someone who's sick and suffering. I mean, and the Torah.
So do you agree with this? Do you
do you
agree with this?
Yeah.
Is that two things? First of all, there's a difference, and I'm all for help people struggling. All for it. Obviously, we know
Okay.
that, right?
I mean, the way you said that, it sounds like you're not.
No,
I'm
it's
kidding.
not. It's just because maybe what I'm about to say, if I could even remember what I was about to say, is that because I've been helped and it's a lifelong journey, right?
Right.
But it's very hard. So there's a few things. There's definitely, when it comes to mental health and addiction, there should be help, yes. But we, for the past bunch of years, there's the stigma and we're pulling it out and everybody recognizes it now. That's fine. But do you remember, because you do, years ago, when somebody was going to treatment, you could call somebody up and they would write out a check for 50 grand and the person would go, those days are over.
Why?
Why? I'll tell you why I think.
Yeah, because I have thoughts.
My thought is that a few thoughts. First of all, a lot of people don't understand. They think that it's with the person. They don't look at it as a disease. That's A. B is that it's very hard. People don't look at it that if they're giving money for someone that's sick, Nebuch, and they gave them a lot of money and they came out and they had a relapse, it's different than if somebody went to treatment and I paid $50,000 for his treatment and he came out and 2 months later he's using again. And now I should pay for his treatment again. They look at it differently. I would rather give my money to something else.
So I agree with you 100%. That's what I've seen. I mean, it was amazing the amount of money I raised for people to go to rehabs. And then business people are business people. They like to give donations. They love it. But they don't like throwing their money away.
Right.
And every one of them at this point is like, and that goes back to what we call the success rate, is like, you need your kid to go to a $40,000 place, so I should shell it out. In the beginning, we thought that was the answer. Every businessman out there has tried this once with one family member, one thing, and they're like, okay,
right,
this is a rigmarole. We're going to do this forever and ever and ever, and you can't get a penny out of anybody right now.
But I want to tell you something else. I want to tell you
that's a good thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm
saying
saying what I've seen.
Our mission should be to make all these programs for free. Why are we going to non-Jewish programs? We have, in the Jewish community, we have the Torah, which it's the beginning of all the teachings out there. And we know how to do this. We have the 12 steps. We have the Torah. We don't need to charge anything. The fact that I charge anything kills me. To me, it should be like, come on into our house. We're going to help you. We're going to get you through the 12 steps. We're going to get you through the program. We're going to do this. This is how I think it should be. But
Sani, you think, and the way you think is amazing.
Yeah.
And the world should be like that, but that's not the way the world is.
Why can't we make the world like that?
Go ahead. One person at a time.
That's what I'm doing.
You can do it. But one thing I did realize in my own experience and in a lot of other people's experience is that when people go for help, even if you say it didn't help, right? They might have come back out and slipped back into whatever struggles they had. They went again. If you talk to anybody that's been to treatment a few times, not anyone, the people I've spoken to, at the end of the day, the ones that eventually, are working on themselves and sober or stable or in some sort of recovery, I found that all the treatments, it wasn't a waste. Meaning, just because after the first treatment they came out and they relapsed, when they're finally in recovery, the first treatment and the second and the third, they have those things in their heart and they could practice it, and it's helped, right?
I agree.
It comes into their recovery. It's not like I went to treatment one time and I paid all this money or however it was and I didn't gain anything.
Could I tell you Rabbi Price has a line about this? I want to bring Rabbi Price back in. No, because Rabbi Price used to say, we say that we put Hashem's love, al levavcha, on top of our heart. So Rabbi Price said, why don't you say in your heart?
Right.
He said, because our heart is closed. If we put it on our heart, when that day that it slightly opens, it'll fall right in.
That's the first thing.
It'll fall right in because it's on your heart. Just sitting there ready for the opening of the heart. And when the heart breaks open, it'll fall in.
It's beautiful.
You should put it on your heart. So it's what you're saying. I I really agree. I think it's an enormous price till we get there. That's what I'm saying. It's like when I meet a guy for the first time, yeah, there are some guys I'm like, I'm going to send this guy to one-time treatment. He's going to come out. He's going to be motivated. He's going to go to maybe sober living, and he's going to do the 12 steps, and he's going to get a job, and he's going to meet a family. And it happens plenty of times. And then sometimes it's going to be, I've had guys go to 50 treatments. Centers.
Right.
And you've also, what's your record? Do you have a record?
No.
Last time I counted with one of the guys, we were at 42. Wow. He passed away, this guy. But anyway, that was the only time I counted with him the week before he died. We were like, how many treatment centers have you been to? And I paid for most of them. So that was when I could raise money. That was back then. But you going to all these treatment centers, it happens to be that you bumped into one of my dreams. One of my dreams is, and I'm not so worried about all the communities in the world. I feel bad about that statement, but in my belief, you take care of your family first, and then you could spread out past. And our family is still suffering. So when I'm done, taking care of the family, and we could discuss where I'm going. But for me, the Jewish community has the resources to have treatment for incredibly affordable rates. And that sounds crazy. And I know I'm trying to kill an industry which I depend on for my living. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
If the rehabs went, who's getting referrals and stuff like that? But it's just that families are suffering. Really
I
bad.
want to know your opinion on something.
Yeah, let's go.
I want to know your opinion on Jewish recovery and Jewish therapeutic recovery. So both sides.
I don't know the difference. What's the difference? What do you mean? Explain me the difference.
The therapy side of things and the therapy and the recovery side of things.
I kind of mix those two. So meaning if, let's say...
It's two separate things, right? There's recovery.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they work hand in hand.
And then therapists go to... You have to explain this a little better because I'm having a hard time understanding because you're...
Jewish recovery.
Jewish, like, saying, like, let's say I get an addict and then we say, let's send them to therapy and they're trying to figure out all the answers.
No.
So explain to me what you're saying.
So Bill Wilson...
Yeah.
Right, started the 12 steps.
12 steps.
By the way, it's funny because when I was newly sober, I once asked somebody, I said, it's so crazy to me that Bill Wilson, who was a non-Jew, wrote these 12 steps, which is so spiritual and really in the Torah. It's such an amazing thing. I would think that a Jew wrote it. And what they told me was, they said, if a Jew wrote it, you'd be dead.
Okay, explain that to me.
Imagine I came to you. They told me, they said, imagine I came to you when you were at your bottom. And I said, the Chafetz Chaim says, if you do these 12 things, you're going to be sober, right? You'll work a program of recovery.
That's funny.
It's, coming from where I came from and struggling the way I did. But
I hear. Okay,
here's
so
my
Bill
question.
Wilson wrote the 12 steps. Okay.
So there's a program of recovery.
Based on Judaism.
All the 12-step programs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's recovery.
Right.
And then there's therapy.
Yes.
For for the addiction mental health space. Okay.
Gotcha.
So two separate things, but they work hand in hand.
Sometimes. That's kind of the question.
So in the past bunch of years, right? It was always in, you go into AA, it's in church basements, it's wherever it is, and you go and you get sober.
Right.
Now there's a big Jewish community within recovery.
Right. You got the living room, you got our village,
You got a lot of things.
I'm going to
our
JRC
village,
next week.
Our village is
It's 12-step based.
It's 12-step based, but I'm talking about meetings. and
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Jewish people that are in recovery, right? There's a difference. There's Jewish people that are in recovery, and then there's Jewish recovery.
So what would you call it, like the living room?
Jewish recovery.
Okay, yeah. So our village is the same thing.
That's part of it, but
Okay, so let me say an answer and see if I'm answering your question. Here's the thing, and it pisses off a lot of people, so I'll say that it pisses off a lot of people. In early recovery, first year of recovery, I am like, you need to be in 12 steps doing this. It's got to be hardcore 12 steps. What I find is that the therapy is actually very distracting to the 12 steps in early recovery. What I mean by that is one of the beauties of the 12 steps that took me a long time to figure out is that they refuse to acknowledge the reason for addiction. I don't think that they didn't think there was a reason. I think they said, it's an allergy, don't ask any more questions. Like, nah, seven Ishma, this is what's happening. I'll tell you how to fix it. Don't talk to me about how it happened. One of the reasons I believe is because that screws us up. It goes into the blame game. 12 steps does not do any blame game. We don't have blame game in the 12 steps. It's you. These are your responsibilities. This is what you got to do. In every situation, you're responsible to some of it. Find out what you're responsible for.
There's no room for but.
Right. There's no room for but. It's a fascinating program, but they take out the like, oh, my mother hurt me, my father hurt me. It was like abuse and neglect and enmeshment and all that stuff, right? It takes it out. And the beauty that I find about it is that that stuff is very traumatizing. To deal with trauma is traumatizing. So a lot of these programs and stuff, they're very heavy on the trauma treatment and the therapy treatment and all that stuff. My belief in the first year of recovery is that I would rather you have a bad therapist than a good therapist. And to explain that is that a bad therapist is not going to try to dig in. He's just going to be there for you, to hold you, to give you support. It's almost like another form of sponsor. It's maybe a sponsor that you could kvetch to more a little bit. You know, sponsors don't want to hear so much kvetching. So it's more you could kvetch to, you get support. It's another person on your team to hold you. But every time I find a therapist, especially the really good ones, they're like, oh, let's get into the kishkas. Let's go deep into... It screws up all the therapy because one part of you is saying, the 12-step part is saying, go make something of yourself, make change. You are way more powerful than you think you are. Based on saying I'm powerless, you have all the power to change your life, which is the interesting thing about the 12 steps. When you discover you're powerless, you get power, which is wild. But it's very empowering. It's very special. And therapy pulls you back. Now, that being said, I find when somebody, and this is one of my lines, it's like therapy is for healthy people. I find that when you're living a good life and you're stable and you maybe have a family and you're working on your stuff and your recovery's solid and you really want to process a lot of the pain in your life and keeps coming back. Recovery doesn't make that go away. It's just you now know how to not collapse because of it, but it's all there and you want to process it. Around a year and a half into recovery, most people will be like, I need a deeper therapist. I want to get into more of the kishkas.
So what's your belief on, today the big word is trauma.
Yeah.
And I remember when that started, right?
Okay.
Which I don't disagree with that. People have things that affected them, that there's different levels of trauma, obviously, right? Yeah. And besides for different levels of trauma, there's how I perceive things, right? Which can be
I just
traumatic.
had David Cohn on. He's therapist. You know David?
Of course.
Okay. So, I mean, he was talking about, it's not new to us, but he was just talking about the idea of like, it's really about how you perceive trauma.
Right.
It's not the actual event. It's how you perceive that
Right.
event.
Because we know people that had extremely traumatic situations and then not so traumatized.
Right.
And there's other people that, right?
Right. And how it's dealt with and how you thought about it, what stories you tell yourself. Right. Yeah.
So
what's the question about trauma?
My question is, all these, a lot of programs are not busy, but they are trauma-informed therapy. what's your thoughts on someone newly getting sober or newly going into treatment and working on trauma?
I'm trying to tell you, I'm really against it because listen, there's not a person in deep addiction, like people that are really like their lives are unmanageable because of it, that you're going to find that didn't suffer some real trauma in their life. There's no way you're going to find it. Maybe you'll find one person out of 1,000. It's not a lot. And when they figure it out, when they eventually do ayahuasca, they find out that there really was. Okay.
We're not going there.
Ayahuasca. Ow! Ayahuasca is ruining my life. Okay, so I gotta not have every discussion with every person. So everybody's got trauma, especially in this industry, and there's no question that the trauma has something to do with it. And I know that there's a belief, I think everything in the world is nature and nurture. So there's no question every addict I met, their nature is addict. And also their nurture is addict. Meaning they both make sense. Whichever way you want to look at it, they both make sense. If you're a therapist, a trauma therapist, you come in, you're like, oh, this is 100% trauma. And then you're like, yeah, but their brother, who's a year older than them, went through the same exact trauma, and they were different people. Correct. So you need the mix of both to make a great recipe for an addict. You need the mix of both. It's a good recipe.
So for me,
so let me answer the question. So for sure, there's tons of trauma, and you could go there. I believe that when it comes to your life is unmanageable because you're spending too much time with the medicine that's helping you feel better because you can't function as a human being. That's addiction. You need to work on that before anything. If you want to go work on all that other stuff, you got to be able to take that leg that's holding them up on their three-legged stool. You got to take that leg out that's supporting them, which is their addiction, and put something else there. Let's start by holding this person up. You want to go and fix all the issues later? I am very against these trauma programs, and it's not great because everybody wants to go to these programs, and the people that go there feel like, I gained so much. I'm like, you gained so much, but why are you using again like right afterwards? What? And to me, it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery because you literally took all the trauma they've been trying to avoid, you put them in a safe place so they rip it all open, and then you send them home. So now you got like a weak fetus, like sitting on the street, like, I don't know.
So now you need to open a free 3-year program.
Why not? By the way,
that's what you need to do.
Honestly,
100%.
Well, no, I will. That's kind of what I have, if you really think about it, because after 6 months of my program, you go to the step-up houses, which is $1,200 a person, and that's affordable for everybody. I mean, you just pay rent there. That's it. And then you're still in the community of this program. You still get a lot of the resources and all that stuff. You're not wrong. It's what I'm talking about. The real heavy trauma work should start a year in. And that's confusing. So I tell people, you send them to rehab. They go to rehab. They have these great counselors who come up. I'm scared of great counselors because they go, let's rip that open and rip that open. Take the defenses down. Defenses are good. I think defenses are good. They're protecting us. If they're there, they're supposed to be there. We lower our defenses when we're safer. So let's make them safer so that they can start lowering it. And when they're ready, boom. So I'm pretty hardcore with just do recovery. And the big reason I have people going to therapy right away is really so they're used to going to therapy. Because what happens is you put someone in a 12-step program and they're not doing therapy for the first year. And there's a lot of talk about therapy is bunk and all that stuff in the rooms. And then a year later, when they really want to dig, they've already been trained that therapy is not the answer. So I kind of stick into therapy. These are I don't know. You think these are interesting ideas? I keep them there.
It's definitely a recipe. I believe you need both. For myself, I got sober. I think it was at I'm an exception to the rule though, but I think it was at 15 years sober that I really started working on certain things that I didn't in early recovery. I felt like I was sober. I worked on a lot of things for many years. And I was really at just a place of being used to this life, but I was missing something. And it's a long story, but the first thing that I did was I joined ACOA, which at that point,
ACOA is what for everybody else?
Adult Children of Alcoholics. Now I've heard of
And
it. It's a
dysfunctional
12
families.
and dysfunctional families.
I'm in there, baby.
Right. So I didn't know that and dysfunctional families because
Right.
I've heard of it, but I'm like, I don't come from.
Basically, you
my
all
parents.
belong in ACOA. All right, go on.
Correct. Such a powerful program. It really, at that time, was giving me what I was searching for. And it was that deeper inner child. It's really an amazing program.
Yeah.
And since then I did, other work, but it was, and I constantly have to do work, right? But
I don't think it's such an exception. I think at some point people realize that there's more. Meaning you do the 12 steps. 12 steps is a very here and forward program. A lot of the old stuff that broke the engine in the first place are still there. They're just floating around. Now I know how to function with them. It's fine that I'm not going to screw up, I'm not going to hurt my family. I mean, like I've fixed all that. But inside, I'm in pain.
right.
And and the 12 steps doesn't really address that, but I appreciate that they don't address it. I just think there is a time. So you wait 15 years, I would move up that timeline just because
100%.
it's hard. People don't realize
I didn't specifically wait 15 years.
Right.
It's just, that's when it happened for me.
That's when it happened. Well, I'm saying I would push it up, but it does happen because at a certain point you're like, so that's where I think the therapy part mixes, but I don't like doing therapy until you're strong. And that's what the point is. Meaning like you were 15 years in, you're rock solid. You're not going to go in and be like, oh my God, that was so hard, I'm going to drink.
Right.
It wasn't that. That was so hard, I may have a really rough week right now. But I got this, and I'm strong enough. And I have the people around me, and I've been treating people well, and they're treating me well. And the difference with that and someone who goes to a trauma program and they're just infused with massive
For me, it was
trauma.
different though. It wasn't, I'm going to have a hard week. It was freeing. I think at that point in my life, I was like, wow, this is incredible. It's such hard work. It's so amazing. But there's answers. There's more growth to do, right? There's more things I can accomplish within myself. And for me, it was more of a freeing feeling.
Right. But I like this talk because I have found that everything in life becomes like a team sport, like everything. And I think one of the things about me is that I'm not into sports. I don't like teams. Even when I say, I feel bad when I say I want to help Jews. What do you mean? Well, everybody in the world can't use some help? They can. So I feel bad about it, but when you have AA's that team, and then you got, the therapy world is that team, and then the million different genres of therapy and a million different versions of recovery programs, and everybody's like, our way is right. I mean, you were implying early on is you're more of a matchmaker.
Correct.
Than you are someone who's figured it out. Because this guy might need, I have people have gone, they're trying the 12 steps over and over. It's just not happening. And then they try another thing, and that is happening. So to me, I kind of get in trouble because I love all of the approaches. I do see the danger in each one. There's a downside to each one.
In trouble in what way?
How do I get in trouble? Because I'm not on anybody's team. So you have...
But there is no team, meaning...
There are teams. If you're let's say, for example, I'm very open to all different types of approaches, not just AA. Even though our program is a 12-step based program in general, I have discussed all different types of approaches, and I'm open to all different types of approaches, and I've tried all different approaches with the guys. If you're a hardcore 12-stepper, and that's your belief, that it's 12-step or death, right? And that's literally the belief. So like you say, I'm sorry, you're not my program. Even though my program is 12-step, it's not enough 12-step for the 12-steppers. Or
so let me ask you a question,
therapy,
Sonny.
Yeah.
You're a statistic guy.
I am a statistic guy.
What are your statistics in people that work different 12-step guys who or smart recovery guys or ayahuasca plant-based medicine guys or girls or whatever type of treatment that worked for them or whatever type of recovery worked for them? What are your statistics?
Okay.
Who has the longest, healthiest recovery? Which program? Okay. Now, I'm not saying that one works for everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But if I remember when I first got sober, I was like, you need to go to AA. I was telling I was preaching off the mountain, right? You got to go to AA. You got to get sober. You get 12 steps. The only thing that works. Why? Because it worked for me. I worked it, right?
Right.
And I was living it.
Right.
I'm in this world sober for long enough now. I agree with you that not every way works for every person, right? So, but I'm asking. So
I'll tell you statistically. So here's the deal: right off the bat, without even blinking, if someone's going to work any program, it's 12 steps by a long shot, because it's 12 steps by a long shot. Now, I'll get into more details, but I'm saying the reason why 12 steps is the best is that it has forever fellowship, which is invaluable, and I don't see any other program. There's no other program. What that means is, for anybody who doesn't understand, it's like there are always meetings, there are always people to call. It's literally a mobile community wherever you go in the world. I mean, I've heard, and most people don't know, but I've heard in airports, like if you're a friend of Bill W, come to gate 11. Like you've heard it, I've heard it. You could literally go anywhere, and I get the chills. You could literally ask for help anywhere in the world, in any language, and there is help for 12 steps. Like invaluable. Also, the 12 steps has an incredible, like rigorous program you got to work, and that means there's work to do. It's not ambiguous like therapy, like, oh, what am I gonna do? I don't know. I gotta get in touch with my inner child. It's very like vague. It's not vague. This is what we work on. You work on this step, this step, this step, then you continue working these steps, and then make sure you work step 12, and like that's it. You're like, you're in, you're locked and loaded. And there's a lot of benefits. If someone is working a program, someone said to me, like, I'm working a program, give me one, it's AA, NA, hands down, no question. My problem with that is that I would say close to 90% of people that I've asked to just join an AA or an NA meeting and try their best and like try to make it work, at least 90% jump out. That's my own numbers. Like, I can't stand it. I don't want to go to a church. I don't want to go to a basement. It sounds like a cult. It sounds like this. I'm not interested. Literally up to 90% are like, I am not interested, right? So then again, so I'd say the statistics might be amazing, but I can't even get people in the room a lot of the times. Even guys in my program, I've been going for 3-4 months. I can't stand it anymore. I don't want to do it. I got 5 different sponsors. It's not working, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. So, and it's a very rigorous program. Like we don't have much room for like whether you're in or out, like you're either in or out. The other programs like Smart Recovery, I have 0 success rate. I don't know where that comes from. Check it out. Sorry, I don't mean to, but it gets a 1 out of 10 maybe. Rational recovery is something that I was fascinated by for a while. I do believe it works for people who are not very heavy addicts. Most people don't know what rational recovery is, but it's, it works on some level. Therapy on some way works on some level, but I don't have exact numbers because most people that I know are mixing many types. So that's really where it's hard to like figure it out. If you're just doing a pure one program, AA is the way to go. But my suggestion usually is to try many things. And if someone's doing AA and then they're trying and harder and harder. And then like they say, listen, I can't break through. And then I have people who are doing ibogaine in Mexico for a month, and it's almost like they went to rehab for 6 months, and they're ready to go, and they're ready to work a program, and they're ready, like, some of this stuff is absolutely phenomenal. But what it is that most programs are just a wake-up call. Therapy tells you there's an issue. Ayahuasca tells you there's an issue. They don't have the follow-up like AA. The deal
Can I
is if
stop you
don't
for a second?
follow up, yeah.
Are these chairs more comfortable than the gray
the
ones?
were very
Because I
weird.
only came for the gray chairs.
I know, but
They
first of all,
look so
they look
nice.
comfortable,
They
but
look-
I will tell you, sit on it afterwards, they like push you off. They're like, it's an awkward sit. So I felt like I was torturing the people here.
So I shouldn't be. I'm not let down.
No, this
These
is
are
way
good.
better.
This is way better.
Comfortable wise, way more comfortable.
Okay.
Those look like a throne, you know?
Yeah,
Sorry.
they were nice.
We'll get a
chairs.
picture of you
Perfect.
on that chair. So what I'm saying, I may be getting a little boring, but what I'm saying is that, again, it's like a matchmaking business. Like, how do I don't give up with someone because they say they can't do 12 steps. We're going to try other things. We're going to try to make it work. And maybe you're going to end up in 12 steps at the end anyway. There's no program that is anywhere near 12 steps in terms of work. I would say the only that comes close is if somebody like rejoins a religion that's very rigorous and has like, they go on a minyan 3 times a day, and they have a learning schedule, and they have a family, and they like, like there are ways that religion is the closest thing that I found to the actual rigorous work you need. So people say like religion's not the answer. It's kind of a little bit. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think I answered your question at all. Did I answer your question? It was so roundabout.
You didn't answer my question, but that's fine. You shared your thoughts with me.
Oh, boy. Okay, so...
And you're a statistic guy, but you couldn't tell me this.
No, because I don't have real statistics. I like statistics, but I did say that most of the people drop out of 12 steps. Like, can't handle it. They just... And I think that a lot could be fixed.
For me, it was... That's what I needed. I needed to be told. I'm very good at following direction. I'm very not good with figuring things out. Because once I have to figure something out, my brain will take me places. Right? My sponsor used to tell me, you have half your brain that manufactures BS and the other half buys it. Right?
That's a great expression.
And it's true, because like if I'm lying to somebody else, or if a person is lying to someone else, they know they're lying, right? They might have told themselves the story a lot of times, so they believe it now. But when I tell myself a story, my brain is so powerful that I could believe my own lie. Right? So for me, being told, do this, come here at this time, show up, that worked for me.
Right.
Some people, it doesn't work for, right?
I mean, I think it would work for everybody if they stuck around and did it.
Right.
So it's like...
So it doesn't work.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. The 12 steppers that I know, they're like, of course it didn't work for you. You didn't do it.
Right.
Shkach. But I'm saying that's such a vast majority. That's the problem. That's the problem I have. So then I got, like, to me, it's like, okay, so let's try something else. Let's try something else. Let's try something else.
Right.
And see where we get there. But let me ask you about the Jewish community. Huh? So it's a fascinating thing with the Jewish community where, like, if you work with non-Jews, they call up, they say, hey, which program should I go to? And then you're like, do this one, Minnesota. And they're like, okay. And then they call Minnesota. You imagine? It's like Gan Eden, right?
That grandmother doesn't call that
Nobody
they didn't
calls.
talk to for
The
15
rabbi
years.
doesn't call.
The rabbi.
Every time
Cousin. And another thing is that we're willing to do whatever it takes. We'll pay any money.
Right.
And then what? Let me try to raise it. I can't. No, I can't.
Right. So the Jewish community Are you fine? Yeah, you're answering.
I love the
basically.
Jewish community, though.
Right.
I love them. That's the way it works.
I sat down. You know Faith Niece
I do.
from Florida? She's awesome. So she was talking about, she actually became Jewish in this whole process. And part of it was because she just loved how when a guy came in, they came in with 40 people.
And I told her,
yeah.
Faith, I told you that when you become Jewish, I'm stopping to talk to you. I did.
You did?
I did. Many times. I said, don't do it.
You threatened her?
I didn't threaten her. I just said, once you become Jewish, I'm done.
That's hilarious.
I was joking, of
yeah,
course.
Yeah, no. But she said, I'm saying that she said when you come into the Rehab, they come in with 40 people.
Right.
And she said a fascinating thing. Like in Rehab, you gotta, like, there's people, like, you get their list and you know all those people are not good for them.
Right.
But in the Jewish community, they're all good for them. They're like their parents and the grandparents and the uncles and the aunts and everybody. But I'm saying
I don't know if I agree with that.
With what?
With the list being all good for them. Meaning they might not be their not healthy friends, but they're not healthy parents or they're not healthy uncle.
No, I agree with you. But there are people that
or
are trying
telling
to make
the treatment
them
center what they need to be doing to fix that person or help that person.
Right.
You had your time. You could have done that.
You worked in treatment centers at all at any point? I don't know.
I've dabbled.
You've dabbled. Okay, I don't remember you working in Chabad maybe for a minute. No,
yeah.
I don't know. I have no follow-up question.
I was
curious.
Yeah,
because I worked. I could tell you this is always fascinating. How many people when I worked in rehabs?
Where'd you work? Yatskin?
I worked in Yatskin.
I had an interview in Yatskin.
And then what happened?
What happened is I was newly sober and I came back to New York. I got sober in California. I was living in California. I got sober in California. I came back and I took an interview with Lou.
Right.
And it just didn't, I ended up staying in California, meaning I wasn't a professional. I didn't have a degree. I remember sitting in treatment and my therapist told me, he said, at one point, I think I might have been in sober living already. And he said, you would be a good therapist. And I said, I can't go to school. I never went to school. I never had a diploma for kindergarten.
Right.
So he told me, he said, hopefully you're going to make it to 40, but one day you'll be 40 and it could be with a degree or without a degree. And I thought about that when I turned 40.
Oh, really?
Without a degree. I didn't have a degree, so I wasn't being a therapist or a KSAC or anything. I was going to have like a job there. But I ended up staying in California.
You remind me of a line my wife said. I like to mention my wife on the podcast. No, my wife said she was in school pretty late. Like she did slowly and like she was graduating late. Like she's doing a graduate school. And so people would always go like, how old are you going to be when you finish your degree? And she would say, the same age I would be if I didn't finish the degree.
That's great.
Which I thought was the absolute best answer.
But you once said on your podcast,
wow.
You once said that as the years go on, I might quote you wrong, so you'll fix it. You get more and more in love with your wife, or you get closer to your wife.
For sure.
And I think that's my situation as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No pressure. We
No
have
pressure.
your wife in the room. But well,
She wanted to make sure I got here.
Oh my gosh. I owe your wife a lot because I've been trying to get you here for a long time. Although it's impossible on WhatsApp.
And I owe my wife a lot because of who I am today.
So why do you think, listen, everybody's sick of hearing about how in love I am with my wife, but why do you think that it's gotten better over the years?
What do I think?
Yeah.
First of all, I feel like we have a very special connection. like very, I don't know how to explain it. Like husband and wife, but best friend, understand each other completely. And it didn't just happen. I think the biggest thing is that it's two people that are, somebody once told me, they said many times, they said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
I could be right all day long.
It's called dead right.
Dead right.
You're dead right.
Exactly.
But
But if you have two people, I think it works like this in general, but for sure in our relationship, if you have two people that are willing, nobody has a perfect life. You have to work on things every day. The same way like you need to work on recovery every day, right?
Right.
And I don't work on it every day, but I try. But if you have two people that, just like within recovery, they told me all you need is a mustard seed of willingness. You know how tiny that is? A mustard seed is the smallest seed.
That's
That's
a Buddhist line. Go on.
So that's what I was told. All you need is a mustard seed of willingness. And then a lot. But I think within a relationship, if you each have a willingness to work on the relationship and your life, and you have the same goals, then life could be incredible or it could be horrible. And it's really that recipe, I think. Everybody needs constant work. But if you're doing it together, then things become fun, I think. Are there hard times? Are there hard conversations? Are there 100%?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Everybody
What
has
do
to
you think?
stick that stuff in. She's nodding agreement. I don't really have the camera that turns around. Get her? I will say, and this is a little bit like vulnerable on my part, my relationship keeps getting better because I stopped trying to make my wife make me feel better. I don't think I ever did that intentionally, but over the years, I stopped seeing her as a way for me to feel all right. And it's more and more like, oh, there's another person here. I literally don't try to change her at all anymore. It's fascinating because we're more partners now that I see her as another person. I think there was a much stronger enmeshment earlier on where it's like, you need to be this way so that I could feel this way. And there's a lot, and that's codependency on, I like a little bit of codependency. It's not the end of the world, but it's as I've gotten older, I'm like, this person's amazing. I don't have to try to do anything. Like, this person is agreeing to live with my miserable tuchus for the rest of our lives, and she's gonna come along for this ride. It's almost like as I get older, it's like almost like gratitude. Like in the beginning, I was like, you're lucky to be serving me somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like a little bit of that. And then it was like, holy cow, I'm going to be going, this person's sticking around. And I could get real miserable and I could get real everything. I'm going to be kind to her, but I'm not always a fun guy to be around. And we're doing this together, and our values have changed over the years. So we're not exactly like thinking exactly the same things, but we're still completely respectful of each other. And it's just glorious. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's glorious that there's no tension and like, I better make this happen so this could happen. And I like, it's weird when you say the hard conversations. Yeah, I guess the hard conversations, but it's just a conversation.
Correct.
With another person who you love. And it's not like, if you don't agree with me, then I'm not all right.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you don't agree with me, but it doesn't destroy me. That's the one thing. And then the other thing is that I realize the magic of a great relationship. This is it. You ready? It's not love, although you need love. The magic is like. If you like each other, it's fireworks. Like you just like hanging out. Like there's nothing I like more in the world than just sitting and maybe talking lush and her with my wife. I don't think there's a thing I like more in the world. When we lock that door at night and we could just, maybe it's not all lush and her, but as much lush and her as we possibly could say. I don't know if I'm going to hell for that one, but it's true. Like I enjoy this person. We're doing stuff together. We love it. And we don't like the same things.
Right.
We just like each other. My kids are always like, what are you still talking about? We know each other. I know each other before you were in Israel. I met my wife. I was 17 years old when I met my wife. I've been having conversations with her for hours from 29 years ago.
And she's still talking to you.
We're just talking. It's the craziest thing. So, and that person who knows all that stuff about me, everything, is choosing to stick with me? That's freaking sick. Anyway, that's what I said. Oh boy, that's my son. Anyway, I only answer for my wife during podcasts. Huh? So, but it's nice, dude. It's really nice. I want to tell you something. I want podcasts. I'm glad you went here because I feel like there's a million podcasts on like when marriage sucks. Like, what do you do and how do you fix it and shalom bias and like there's a million classes and I look at the young people and I'm like, what do they have to look forward to? Like marriage is hard. I've heard that like when you start the sentence, like you give a Shevabrach speech and it's like marriage is hard. Like, why am I doing this? Like it's real. Like this sounds grueling. And there's not enough people sitting around going, are you kidding me? I get to hang out with a lady for the rest of my life. And we get to do this life together. And no matter how bad it gets, I always have a partner. Like, who's talking like that? That's what I'm saying. Only me.
You.
And you.
But you have a podcast.
But I have a podcast. Why do I have a podcast? Okay. Anyway. Okay. I don't know how long we're going because I'm really enjoying this. You have a time here? We're running out of time? What time is it? 1 second.
It's 1:30.
You know, you're doing a big podcast when I thought it was only an hour in, but I have a schedule. Okay, let me ask you, what did I miss? This topic. This is one a really fun podcast because I feel like I'm really talking to a colleague. You know, sometimes I'm like talking up or talking down. Like I'm
not
really,
talking up or down?
I don't feel like it. I feel like we're like in this together and we get the powwow on it.
You don't even remember the first time I met you?
Really? Okay, tell me.
When did you meet
remember
me?
it?
When did you meet me? When do you know me from?
I never know. I never know about anybody.
It's interesting because I never know about anybody either, but for
I
some
remember
reason,
I
remember the first time I met you. I don't know if you're going to remember.
Okay, let's hear. It could be we met in Neve, by the way, but that was ignored. Okay.
It was probably 1992.
What?
You were in Bradley Beach.
What?
Were you in Bradley Beach?
Yes.
We hung out.
What? My brain is breaking.
And I did a lot of drugs.
What do you mean? How did we hang out? You were in Bradley Beach?
I was not in Bradley Beach, but I was in Lakewood.
No freaking way. And we hung out?
We hung out.
Was there anybody else involved?
I don't remember. Yes, there were. I don't remember, though.
Wow.
See that?
You're blowing my mind. First, you had the Chaim shorts. Chaim shorts I kind of knew. Robert Price, I didn't know. You're telling me Bradley Beach, you were living in Lakewood.
I was living in Lakewood. I wasn't in school at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who. There was some guys.
Are you the same age as me?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
I always thought you were like a year or two younger than me, but you're probably not.
No, I went
45,
to Israel.
46 now?
I'm 46.
We're the same age. Okay. So you were supposed to be in ninth grade.
I'm trying to remember. There were other guys. I had friends in Bradley Beach. That's why I have to remember.
There was a Lakewood crew. Oh my God, I was such an angry kid then. I just remember how angry I was. I literally, I was, the amount of like violence that happened that year.
I think I
So
was
a
just
lot of
lost.
violence.
I was just lost.
You were lost. I was so
I was just
angry.
lost.
I was being very, I was being very violent and really out of control. Wow, almost nobody remembers that I went to Bradley Beach. So that's like,
Hear that?
and we go to Lakewood. Man, did I hate Lakewood? I walk in, I'm like, how? This place is gross. It's like just Jews everywhere. Like just it was brutal. And they put us up like by these rabbis' houses. And we'd have
Yes.
to, and I hated Judaism like with a passion. Whatever.
And then you left. You
And
weren't
then I
there the
left.
whole high school. Were
I
you?
was there. Rabbi Posen, right? Posen used to run it. He said I was the first one in, first one out.
Wow.
That's what he said. That was his line about me. So I got kicked out pretty soon. It's a funny story. I got kicked out, but I don't remember if it's true anymore. You know, you tell us, you hear you say a story too many times, and then
You believe
you're
it?
like, I don't know if it's a true story
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
Maybe I'll skip it. I don't know if it's a lie. But I got kicked out. One time I think I got in trouble for cutting my payas off, but it was really an accident. Like I
You
was
got
trimming.
kicked out for cutting your pants off?
No, that wasn't the story.
Oh.
The story was,
You can't hold yourself back.
yeah, I'll tell you the story. Because there was a guy on the news who stabbed a principal like 6 times with like a 6.5-inch blade that he had. This guy came in and stabbed his principal. And I thought it would be hilarious practical joke because Rabbi Posen gave us a class to pull out my 6.5-inch blade in the middle of class. It was like a ha-ha.
Wow.
The day after that news came out. So I thought it was, I wasn't planning on stabbing you. It wasn't the plan at all. That's not what happened. But
Sonny Perlman.
he got very serious. I was like, I have a 6.5-inch blade. It was like so specific. They said he stabbed him 6 times with a 6.5-inch blade. Like those days, you had to listen to the radio.
Right.
You know? So I thought it was hilarious. And then they kicked me out. I thought it was overreaction.
100%.
The whole thing seemed like an overreaction to me. I've done much worse stuff than that, I thought. They just didn't catch me. Anyway, wow. So your mama should remember me from all the way back then. I can't believe
It's a
that.
long time.
I can't believe that. So what do we miss? Anything? I'm going to ask you the final question.
What's the final question?
Final question is the rooftop question, which is if you have like an audience of like the whole world and you're on the rooftop and you want to just yell something to the world that the world should know. Wow. What do you want to yell to the world? See, you should always, I warn people, you should finish one of my pods and you'll know about this question. You always say, about this question.
I always say, I started, people ask me, did you hear this podcast? I started it. I started a lot. Maybe I should just go to the end.
If I was a refugee, I would hide at the end of one of my pods. No one would ever find me. Okay, go on. Dumb joke.
That's a really good question.
That joke is stolen from like, if I was a refugee, I would hide on the second page of a Google search. Like nobody gets the second page. All right. Yeah, that's the question. It's a tough one if you're not ready for it.
It's a tough one because what do I really want to tell the world? There's so many things. Right?
Yeah. Any one of them works.
I think what I would want, there's so many things, but
I'll give you a couple if you want.
A positive thing that I would want to tell the world, if they would really believe it, is you are enough. So many people question themselves and feel so low about themselves because of what they've been told or how they feel. And if somebody really, truly believes that they're enough, I think that's that's something that they could only grow from there.
I love that.
if they truly believe it. Anybody.
I sometimes feel that, but I actually think I needed to hear that today. Honestly,
You are enough.
thank you, brother. I realized yesterday that did not. I think when my mom passed away this year, I did not grieve. I was realizing that, so it's good to hear that.
It's not too late.
I know. The truth is, you grieve whether you like it or not. I just didn't take time to grieve. I tell my wife, I'm like, what did I change in my schedule? Like, what did I drop to grieve? Like, what did I, did I take a night Seder off? Like,
I didn't even know that your mother passed away.
My mother passed away.
Baruch Dayanemes.
Thank you. Yeah, last July. Wow. So it's coming to an end.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you want to tell your mother?
Tell my mother?
Yeah. You asked me what's one thing if I'm on the rooftop that I want to tell the world. So I'm asking you that if your mother was sitting in this room right now, what is one thing that you would want to say to her?
That's super personal. Okay, let's see. I want to tell her that I'm enough.
Okay. There you go.
No, maybe that's a joke, half joke. That's one of our expressions we have in our village is there's a little joke in every joke. Anyway, okay. I think it's hilarious
because people say there's truth.
There's a little truth in
right?
every joke. I say there's a little joke in every joke. It's all truth. What would I tell my mother? There's too
My
many
codependency
things.
side,
You
when
wanna
it was
tell me
quiet
things?
now, no, I would say, no, it's okay. You don't have to say it.
You wanted to say that?
No, I was about to, but I'm not saying it.
No.
You didn't say it to me.
I didn't say it.
You let me sit here quietly for a minute.
Yeah.
So now you'll sit quietly for a minute.
I maybe this is something I really got to think about because I'm trying to be like as honest as possible. I think of a lot of like quippy lines. They're not truthful. It was a very complicated relationship. So
you're gonna go through your grieving process.
I want to say what I want to say. Hold on, give me a second. I'm still thinking. I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you're still listening to this podcast. At this point, me and Ezie are in the middle of something here. Hold on one second. I think I want to say I'm angry.
Okay.
I'm real angry that things are not processed, and I don't think I think I'm both grateful for everything and angry, but I'm more angry. Yeah, it's not specific, but it's about as vulnerable as I'm gonna get. But
that's vulnerable.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I find myself. I haven't been in touch with my anger in a lot of years. This year, it's just there all the time. I feel like, I don't know if you watch the Marvel movies, but like the Incredible Hulk, you know about the Incredible Hulk? So
it's like podcasts. I started it. No.
Oh, so
I'm not a big.
movies,
I don't.
The whole idea is this guy Bruce Banner is trying to figure out how to control the Hulk. He turns into the Hulk, and then eventually he learns how to control it. And they say how someone asked him, I don't remember, it was like, how do you figure out how to control it? He said, I didn't. I figured out that I'm always angry. And when he accepted that, he was both able to think and be the Hulk. Like he was somewhere in the middle because he recognized he was always angry. It wasn't like an outburst that turned him into the Hulk. So when he realized that, he was able to control it. So this year, I feel like that. Like it's just brewing. Like I guess it's me saying I'm enough. But I'm yelling. Anyway,
That's good.
it's good stuff.
That's good.
All right. God, it was really fun to sit down. I feel like there's a lot more, but I want to maybe do this part 2 another time.
Oh my God. That's how he does it. He slaps you in.
Very few people get part 2. I really, really enjoyed this because I feel like we talked about real stuff it's like industry stuff that I can't talk to most people about. And I think about it all day long. I'm trying to make a program that is the best. Like if I forgot about money and I forgot about like what is the best. Like this weekend, I'm taking everybody to Florida to the JRC. It's costing me $10,000. I don't have $10,000 extra to do it. But to me, I made a commitment that our program is the best. And when I sat down with the staff, everybody agreed it would be beneficial to do a trip out to Florida and meet more people in recovery and expand their horizons and see new ideas. And it would be good for them. And we're just doing it. So like, I'm trying to do that. And the frustration of the finances involved are always, it's an interesting one, this crossover. And I like talking about it, like figuring how to do it. My goal is to help people, the most amount of people for the least amount of money. And I don't think it would work through insurance. That's where I get tricky. I think insurance makes too many demands that have nothing to do with recovery. I think if insurance paid for 12-step meetings, you might have something. But they don't. They pay for you to color in a coloring book, and which is cool. I'm not anti-coloring in coloring books or riding horses or playing with rabbits or whatever else things you do. But I think it's important. Now I'm getting in again. Anyway, last thoughts? Or you're done?
Bro.
It's the longest conversation you ever had.
That's for sure. Number 2 is you asked the last question already.
It's a soft last
It's a
question.
soft last question.
Okay.
My last thoughts
last thought
is that at the end of the day, your heart is in the right place and you're helping tremendous amounts of people. You are. And I just want to give you a bracha to really continue the work that you're doing. I know it sounds so regular but I mean it, because you've been around and you've helped thousands of people and you're continuing to, and really to have that bracha to create that real village that you envision. It's possible. Question is how.
Amen. Damn.
Good to see you.
That was nice. Love you, man.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.